insane. Oh my goodness.
Okay, I got it.
Thank you, thank you. And let me know, I'm not online, if you just like log in, so just let me know.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You guys ready? Folks? Rich? Lauren? You guys ready? Good? Okay. Good?
Yeah, ready. No, yes.
Sorry. Okay, it is now 6 p.m. This regular meeting of the Ala Moana Neighborhood Board, number 11, now come to order. Thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year. Thanks for being here today. The purpose of the neighborhood board is to encourage civic engagement and make sure that the neighborhood Ala Moana that we live in is a great place to live, work, play, and thrive. With that being said, let's do our first roll call for 2024. Member Chang.
Present.
I am here. Member Webb.
Present.
Vice Chair Chi. Member Mariano.
Present.
Secretary Rice. Member Farringer. Treasurer Kiniko Iwamoto. Here. Second Vice Chair Lori Farinas. Hello. And Member Emma Davis. Here. Okay, it looks like we have quorum. And board members, I emailed you. I reversed the orders. My apologies. We have to go over public safety reports first. I think we did that. I just went off with a different template this time. But we'll do the public safety reports first. Honolulu Police Department, if you are online. Yeah.
No, just HFG.
Okay, so we'll wait for each PD to come on. In the meantime, Honolulu Fire Department, and thank you as well for sending your reports in advance. Are they on?
HFG?
Oh, sorry, that's me. Information previously. What's that? Oh. Incident statistics for December 2023. Fires. We have 6 structure fires, 0 brush fires, 5 nuisance, which includes rubbish fires or vehicle fires, 0 cooking fires, and 24 activated alarms. Emergencies, we had 159 medical emergencies, 2 motor vehicle collisions with pedestrians, 6 motor vehicle crash collisions, 0 mountain rescues, 0 ocean rescues, and 0 hazardous material incidents in our area. Fire safety tips and announcements. This month's tip is on lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries supply power to many kinds of devices, including smartphones, laptops, e-scooters, and e-bikes, e-cigarettes, smoke alarms, toys, and even cars. If not used correctly or if damaged, these batteries can catch on fire or explode. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions. Only use the battery and charging cord designed for the device. Replace cords that are damaged, frayed, or sticky to the touch. Charge devices in a cool area with good ventilation. Do not keep charging the device or device battery after it is fully charged. E-scooters and e-bikes should only be charged outdoors. Smaller devices should be placed on a hard, non-flammable surface when charging, never under your pillow, on your bed, or on the couch. Store batteries away from anything that can catch on fire. You guys have any questions?
Thank you for that report, board members. Member Mariano?
Yes, thanks for the report. Last month, we had one of the residents talk about the lithium batteries that you mentioned and the place for proper disposal. And they're saying that they weren't enough place to properly dispose these lithium batteries. So do you have a place here in the Kaka'aka area where we can consolidate and put these lithium batteries for safe disposal?
Sorry, I didn't hear all of that question. Were you asking, is there a safe place to store these batteries?
Place to discard those batteries. We had a resident last month talk about proper disposal of these lithium batteries. You know, that's becoming an issue. And so in the Kaka'ako area, uh, is there a place where we can probably locate and discard it before it hauled away to the proper disposal site?
Okay, so the question is a proper place to discard those batteries when you're done with them. I do not know if there is a place in our area, but I will find out and email you guys the answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Any other questions from the board? Questions from the community? Okay, thank you for your report. We appreciate it. Circling back, is HPD online? No?
No, I'll let you know if I see.
Okay, thank you. And I want to recognize that Vice Chair Chi and Member Rice arrived at 6:05 p.m. Okay, moving on to board business. We have a vacancy in Subdistrict 1. So do we have any nominations to fill that seat? No takers? Okay, we will move this on to our agenda for next month. 2.2, approval of our Tuesday, November 28th, 2023 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any edits?
Move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Meeting minutes approved. Oh, well, to your vote.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yep.
I
Treasurer Iwamoto?
thank you. I didn't find, were the minutes in the board documents? Or is it on a whole nother, I'm sorry, I thought it would be I looked in the board documents for this meeting and I didn't see it there. Did I look in the wrong area? It's probably in the board minutes section. So I apologize. I'm going to abstain from this vote because I did not read the minutes.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Treasurer Iwamoto?
As a general announcement, you can always find our minutes on our website, which is honolulu.gov/NCO.
Yes.
I do usually put it up there on the Google Drive. I think I just forgot to this month, so I apologize.
Spoil me. Thank you. But I do know that there is a link to minutes and agenda, and I apologize. I did not look at that. So thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Treasurer Iwamoto, who will be abstaining from the vote. Let's just go down the list for approval of minutes. Ronnie Chang. Member Chang?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. Member Webb?
Yes.
First Vice Chair Chi?
Aye.
Member Mariano?
Yes.
Secretary Rice?
Yes.
Member Farringer? You're not here. And then Member Kimpoko Iwamoto abstains. Second Vice Chair Farinas?
Yes.
Member Davis?
Yes.
Okay, meeting minutes approved. Thank you, everyone. This is at item 2.3. So to let the community know, our board is restarting our action committee. And we did appoint 3 members of our board to lead that committee. So we have member Emma Davis, who will be the chair of the action committee. First Vice Chair Dyson Chi, who will be also the vice chair of that committee, and Secretary Jeannie Rice will be the secretary. So thank you, folks, for stepping up to the plate. With that said, Member Davis, please report on that wonderful meeting that we had last week.
I almost unmuted myself out here. Yeah, I think all of us are kind of coming out of that meeting with a positive mindset. We really wanted to focus on addressing the continued concerns with our residentially challenged population and potential ideas that we can start here in an action committee, potentially moving that up to drafting resolution, which Member Mariano reminded us, like, very gracefully, that is where our ability to create change lies, is drafting resolutions, passing those up through the systems of government that exist. But it can start with us. we moved on to talk about, some ideas of what that might look like, in how we can create areas of impact or where areas of impact are. And really focused in on both looking at AMI and the current kind of structure around what affordable housing looks like, but also address the need to think about that separately from our residentially challenged population, right? A lot of the AMI is focused on low income, where we have a lot of our residentially challenged population, whether they're just moving into houselessness or homelessness, or have been there for many years and are struggling with other challenges in their life, and thinking about what different tiers of support look like. And then where we, can look at our neighborhood for areas where we can centralize that support and help, and find a place for them in a sense to belong. Because I think overall, one of the things we noticed is that in general, they don't seem to belong anywhere to anyone right now. And that's always going to create a continued challenge. So what does it look like to create belonging, but also support within our community? But we kind of summarized that with a goal of creating a timeline, where we are all kind of following up on different pieces of that action committee and questions that we have, including reaching out to Sam Moku and a lot of the community organizations that already exist in partnership with them. Following up at the next action committee and moving on into April, and hopefully submitting a resolution by May or June before City Council and/or the Senate close their session. Sorry. And yes, one of the biggest things is how we can, create strength in numbers, especially with communities that are, I think, facing similar challenges to us, including Waikiki, Kalihi, downtown and Chinatown areas. And creating structures that work in conjunction with each other to address the problem. And if anybody add on to? That's kind of a summary of it. If anybody has any questions or wants to add on.
Thank you.
Could you elaborate on the overall charter of this committee and the intent so that the community can volunteer if an interest?
Yeah, but I would ask if you can do that, because I think you will speak to it much more. I might be the chair, but I'm not the only one with knowledge, and I think you did a great job of reminding us of that, if you want to share.
Okay, well, thank you. The purpose of the standing committee, the Community Action Committee, is to help us prior to any of the board meetings to handle some challenging topics that oftentimes during a regular monthly meeting, we do not have sufficient amount of time to discuss all of those things. So the Community Action Committee's charter is to hear the community, bring those individuals or those organizations that's given a presentation prior to the board meeting, and invite the community, the board members and whoever else to discuss, present, and then we have more time to discuss. For example, the issue that member Davis mentioned about the homeless houseless situation. We spent about 2.5 hours crafting a way forward to have a what we call a line in the sand with an expected date of a resolution to send forward to the city council and to the mayor by June 2024 or earlier. But that's a target, and that's the purpose of the Community Action Committee. So if you have any issues, any concerns, or it doesn't have to be concerns, but things that you might want to present to the committee. That's one of the reasons why the charter is available, so that we can have community involvement rather than just trying to cram 20 pounds of manure in a 2-pound bag. It can work, but we want to have more time so that we can solicit openness in keeping with sunshine. Yes, sir.
And not that we're manure.
Yes.
Is there any discussion about zoning constraints to growing the supply of housing and affordable housing? And is keep country a sacred cow that nobody can touch? And if that's the case, maybe you are cramming a lot of stuff in a small bag.
Sir, could you state your name so we can have it on it? Thank you.
I think, so you bring up an excellent point with zoning. And one of the things that we were talking about during the committee meeting is really the importance of understanding how having a houseless community intersects with other issues that we face. And so one of the things we did discuss about was, where do we build affordable housing? Because there is a lot of NIMBYism and there's a lot of issues when we look at housing. And so there was general consensus, at least within our discussion during the committee meeting, that housing should be developed in places that are pretty much already in town. So basically areas that have good access to public transit, that have access to hospitals, where you can access all these necessary items that people need in order to survive without having to have, say, for example, a car. And so that was kind of the emphasis in our discussion. And so it kind of does get to that question that you asked regarding, again, like zoning and understanding where do you build this. So thank you for putting it on our radars, and we do want to keep this on our.
To focus on the need to focus on urban core. But part of that need is because there's a sacred cow that nobody can touch. Keep country country.
I think to round it out, I think we're looking at all of the different perspectives, including looking at AMI, addressing a whole, again, at tiered levels, you know, of what we are able to control. But like Dyson said, you know, we also need to think about access and what is actually sustainable in terms of developing a system that can address these issues. And, you know, that may be part of the country. It may be, you know, where we already have infrastructure supporting those needs. So I think to round it out, we are continuing to meet with the Action Committee every second Thursday, my apologies, Thursday. And if you want to, again, participate in those and go more into depth in these discussions that are focused on these issues, then you're welcome to join us there. And like Member Mariano mentioned, it's also a place to bring issues to discuss. Some of the ones that we also mentioned were infrastructure and public education. So that's not an exhaustive list, and you're welcome to come in and engage in those conversations with us. We can get into them further.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Davis, and then Secretary Rice, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. Just to maybe piggyback on what Chair Davis said and Member Mariano said, it's really, we decided at the Action Committee how important it was to join forces with the other neighborhood boards. These 5 neighborhood boards or 5 districts or 5 neighborhoods were severely impacted by the houseless homeless situation. And we know that it's doable. And then joining forces with Sam Moku, who's now the city and county's
Homeless coordinator.
homeless coordinator. Thank you. And then he'll be able to also work with John Mizuno at the state level. Hopefully we'll be able to resolve this problem. There are a number of legalities that many of us know or may not know. One is that the ACLU last week or 2 weeks ago lost their bid to remove the sit-lie bill in Waikiki in downtown LA. And then there's also a Supreme Court case that was brought by the cities of San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Phoenix to unconfuse, if you will. There's two laws on the books, one from 1962 and one from 1982, and they contradict one another when it comes to the homeless. So we're hoping that the nation's Supreme Court will finally hand down a decision that will help all the states. This is not just Hawaii, it's a pandemic in our country. And the problem here is that we're a small bowl, but there's a lot of fish. And we need to be able to help those fish, or the homeless people, to get well, get better, move on with their lives, and be contributing them as members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Rice. And we hope you folks do, attend that committee meeting. So we'll be having the dates and the agenda soon.
It's every second Thursday.
Every second Thursday, with the next meeting being on February 8th at 6 p.m. in the small room, which is here still at Makiki Christian Church, but over across out.
Right.
The right.
Yeah.
Around
So
right.
it's
Thank you.
It's the older adults ministry room.
And that's it.
We're hoping.
At 6 PM on February 8th, with following meetings on March 14th, April 11th, and May 9th.
This kind of key board participant.
We will be inviting other boards. Their participation and attendance is to be determined, but we will be inviting them.
I'm the newly minted board member at Key.
Oh, awesome.
It's great to hear.
Yay. Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to item two.
We're gonna continue this virtually also. Right?
Yes,
Yes, yes.
And that's important to know.
thank you. Yeah, for that detail.
Thank you, Member Chang. Moving on to item 2.4, discussion and consideration of a resolution regarding the taxation and regulation of responsible adult use of cannabis. Spencer, are you able to pull that?
Cannabis?
Unless Kim's able to.
Okay, Treasurer Kim Pokoremoto, are you able to pull up the reso?
I have it in front of me, but I just wanted, was it circulated earlier?
No, and my apologies for that. I thought I did, but let's go over it now.
Or, because I don't know how to put it into the chat. I'm apologize. But I can just, but you know what, I just want to clarify that this is, actually, I'm realizing that I don't know if we're ready to like vote on a resolution, but like, if it's okay that we can just start the discussion.
Yes.
Should I read through it so you have a context? Is that make sense?
Yes, that would be great. So we'll try to pull it up, but if you can read through it, that would be wonderful.
So again, it's a resolution supporting the legalization, regulation, and taxation of cannabis for responsible adult use. Whereas since 2012, 24 states and the District of Columbia have legalized responsible adult cannabis use. Whereas according to the National Institute of Health, legal cannabis use has lower health risks than alcohol or tobacco. Whereas cannabis available on the streets of the Moana neighborhood are made of uncertain composition and potency, increasing the risk of overconsumption and other negative health impacts for consumers. Whereas regulated cannabis commerce can ensure that adult consumers are making informed choices through quality assurance mechanisms like accurate labeling that delineates potency and composition, batch testing, and access to science-based educational materials. Whereas Operation Green Harvest in Hawaii in the late 1970s wiped out cannabis crops in Hawaii and triggered an epidemic of addiction to crystal meth, which continues to contribute to Hawaii having one of the highest rates of homelessness in the country. Whereas data indicates that the availability of regulated cannabis products can result in reduced use of alcohol, non-medical opioids, and may reduce relapse cravings for those recovering from crystal meth addiction. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board supports the legalization, regulation, and taxation of cannabis for responsible adult use with consideration for the following potential benefits. Leveraging permits for cannabis cultivation so that it increases farming produce for local consumption. Increasing tax revenue to the general fund to subsidize affordable housing and the delivery of social services, including drug treatment and mental health services. Undermining illegal drug market by keeping the price of cannabis from a licensed retailer lower than the price of crystal meth from an illegal dealer. Reducing barriers to employment for those with cannabis-related criminal records, and ameliorating social injustices of cannabis criminalization by ensuring access to equitable economic opportunities post-legalization. And then it goes on to just say, be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution go on to the legislature and the governor. But generally that was it. It kind of came to mind when we heard the community member testify about observing a drug dealer on her, below her window or across the street. And that he may be speculating that he may be selling marijuana or crystal meth, and also understanding the connections. So the nexus for me was, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if people are obviously using marijuana already? It's just if they don't have a medical license, if they don't have a medical prescription, they're obviously using illegal stuff, which isn't often regulated. Wouldn't it be great if regulated cannabis was at a price point where they wouldn't have to, it would be cheaper than getting it from a drug dealer and also cheaper than crystal meth. So it'll kind of undermine that whole thing and the whole, the criminal syndicate of illegal substances that we saw during the alcohol abolition. It's kind of similar to what's going on with, illegal substances on the black market. So it's kind of that, but I'm happy to, answer questions or take suggestions on how we can make this better. Obviously, this is a topic that the AG has introduced a bill to legalize, and given where it is and the kind of groundswell of support that's happening, I threw in some really important things that we don't want this to get away from us. If we do legalize, I want to make sure that when the state says, hey, go ahead and grow, marijuana for sale, I want to make sure that all the land and water and farmers don't drop the local produce and go for the gold crop, right? I want to make sure if you can make $1 million profit off selling cannabis, hemp, seed, oil, all the things that you can make monetize cannabis from, I want to make sure that that $1 million profit margin on 1 acre is actually spread out over 9 acres of food production. I want to make sure that those people who are producing food for our families here in Oahu are the first ones to get the permit to grow marijuana, because then it could underwrite all the costs of growing food, which are really expensive. So I'm just thinking proactively about what we want, how we envision our economy, this as we do move towards legalization, which I believe will happen sooner than later, given the trend going across the country. And it's a potential, how are we going to fund all the homeless solutions or the solutions that your subcommittee is creating? We could use this. There could be sufficient funding for that. Anyway, it's a starting point of the conversation.
Thank you, Treasurer Emoto. Let's go board discussion. Member Davis.
Keep unmuting myself in here. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify in the resolution, was there mention of that in the need for people who are going to produce or grow marijuana to also be, and like what percentage? Because I agree with, I think that's a really good way to kind of monitor and or again, drive production of local food. We know there's a lot of food deserts that are also existing, especially on our west side, and contribute to a lot of health impact too. So if we can increase food production, especially local food production, and decrease supply chain, and create local support for healthy food in conjunction with this, I'm wholly in support of that. The other kind of question I want to open up is, are there other things that we can fund using this? I know, I'm a little biased towards it, I'll admit that, but funding education has long been something we have not been doing in this state. And, is there a limit to that, or can we expand, again, some of this potential revenue from legalizing marijuana to really start to fund some of the things that have been underfunded for far too long, including, again, affordable housing, homelessness, but I think education is potentially something that should be mentioned as well.
Thank you, Member Davis. Other board members? Member Chang.
My only concern about it is there's a lot of assumptions in your resolution. And I think that there needs to be some kind of corroborating report, study along the line of those whereas. You have a lot of whereas in there. One that stood out to me was the smoking of cannabis is healthier than tobacco. In my former life, before I retired, if you went to apply for an insurance policy, and of course, when you take an insurance policy, they're going to test you. If you get tested and you turn out with tobacco, or if you turn out to be with the alcohol, marijuana, you're rated under insurance as a smoker. So, you know, the phrase that it's better than smoking is not necessarily true. So, you know, again, that's why I said the whereas it's in there needs to be backed up with some sort of report or study that will corroborate, or else you find one thing wrong with the resolution, they're just going to ignore it.
Yes,
So
thank
it
you.
needs to be very focused, and if we don't have something that can actually corroborate what the whereas says, we need to get it out.
Yes. Member Chang, can you give me a sense of what in your mind is the highest authority to corroborate that one point? Because I cited the National Institute of Health, but do you have a higher authority? Because I can provide that documentation, but if that's not a high enough medical authority, I'm happy to give you something else.
I'm just giving that as an example. There's a lot of other whereas in it, but I'm just giving an example.
I can provide citations for all of that if it actually is going to be persuasive.
I think that's all.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Thank you. Member Mariano.
I think this is a novel approach. I kind of agree with Member Chang, you know, a lot of these whereas. So for example, you know, taxation, right? I would, you know, if I were to make a modification to that, I would say earmark the taxes that's coming from the, and this is recreational marijuana, because there's already a program for medical, and that's already a controlled aspect, and there's already taxation. But if we want to look at the recreational marijuana taxation, earmark that for school, earmark that for housing, earmark it for that, because when you put it in a general fund, it never gets to where you want it to go. So I would think that, I think this is a good thing that we need to have, and at our level, sending it up to the city council, up to the mayor or our county, that I would suggest that this will be, again, a topic that we can bring in at the Community Action Committee next month, because we'll have more time to do that and also read the resolution. I think your point, Member Coco, is kind of spot on. I've heard this throughout the campaign, and, you know, just kind of lip service. Now we want to put some foundation around this to kind of move forward. And we need to be the first neighborhood board to help kind of craft some of those things, and then bringing in these other organizations that's already looked into this, because they have all the research. Because there's a thing with the state level, county level laws, but if you're working for the federal government, it's against, you can't work for a federal government if you're smoking recreational marijuana. So, but I would suggest, Madam Chair, that we take this topic for further discussion in the Community Action Committee in February. Are you okay with that?
Member Rice.
Thank you. And good points, Member Mariano. One of the things, maybe I didn't hear it, Member Coco. What about checks and balances? The food producers who may opt to go into the marijuana production, who is going to monitor them to make sure that they're doing one or the other, or really both? Because we don't want to lose our food production, because the marijuana production is going to be that much more profitable. Is that in there? Maybe I didn't hear it. I apologize.
Yeah, that's one of the points I wanted to underscore, is that if we're supporting this concept in general, we want to ensure that the state doesn't allow for this over they fail to protect our production this way. Right now, medical marijuana, so to go back to the taxation, the medical marijuana, I don't feel medicine should be taxed like that. No medicine should be taxed, but unfortunately I believe it is. But in terms of farming and growing medical marijuana, because it's a medicine, there's all this structure and formality around the growing. But with recreational use, I would imagine it would be a little bit more open farming. And again, the main focus of this whole thing is kind of to make sure that it underwrites and it supports and subsidizes food production especially for locally grown food that's locally consumed. That would be a really important part. And so as the agency would authorize the growing of marijuana for recreational use, I would hope that they would give the first permits to farmers who are already growing food like that, to say, hey, use one of your acres to grow, to do this to subsidize. So that is the whole kind of point of this. It was the number one point I made in this resolution because that is so important.
Right, thank you.
Board members, any other questions, comments, concerns?
We continue. Huh?
But I
We
did,
continue.
I will note that I will add it to
Okay.
the February 8th
Wonderful.
action committee just for further discussion.
Okay, and then Treasurer Emoto, you mentioned that you would be able to give us sources. Are you comfortable with this version of the resolution being circulated?
Yes, and I will make sure everything has citations when I present to the other subcommittee.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good discussion, board. Thank you. Moving on. 2.5 attendance at other meetings. Does anyone want to report anything from other meetings? Treasurer Emoto.
Thank you. Just this morning, I participated in the point in time count, which is done across the country, but it was done this morning in Honolulu, and I think on different islands are doing it on different days. But it was really important, and to do that, and you actually speak to and you take the unhoused person. You actually, so we canvassed between Eveleigh from Dole Cannery all the way to South Street, or right before South Street. And we walk that whole area. We give them little incentive gift bags to participate in the survey. But the survey is really important. You speak to these are the neighbors that we're talking about. You speak to them directly and you get to hear, we ask them very direct, specific questions like, did you experience homelessness as a minor, as a child? And, we collect this data and we see how it's going and if the community is hitting its targets in regards to interventions and all of that. And I did walk in my group. There was Council Member Tyler DeSantis Tam, as well as John Mizuno, the governor's new housing czar regarding unhoused people. And so it's an opportunity to talk to him about things. But one of the things I really encourage everyone who's concerned about this issue, they do it every year, and I may have announced it earlier in last year, but please do sign up to volunteer. It took us only 4 hours. We started at 6 p.m. But it's really important that we do engage on that level. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Treasurer Emoto. And if you have the link to where people can find data from that or more information, are you able to drop it in our chat? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Board Member Mariano.
Yes, Chair, I represent this board on the Oahu Metropolitan Planning. And at this last meeting that took place, I raised a question reference some of the infrastructure that they're doing, housing, I mean, not the housing, but the streets and all. And some of this complete streets thing that's one of our topics near and dear to us. And one question that I had was, when they put out these public forums, it's not really well advertised. So they say, well, you can get onto our transportation website and you can submit public testimony. So I received an email back just a couple of days ago, a week ago, from Dallas, who's on there, and if I could read it to you. He says, thank you again for your comments during the January Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. In response to your comment about making public announcements for the public review period for the Transportation Improvement Program, spoke with the Public Affairs Office at the Hawaii Department of Transportation. In addition to publishing tip notices throughout the Oahu Metropolitan MPO website and newsletter. And what they're going to do, in summary, is start to look at coming up with a plan so they can make these public announcements, so that not just a select group of individuals who attend these meetings and then push their program forward. So it's something that I think is to be all public needs to be made aware of. So just report that out.
Thank you for that report, Member Mariano. Member Davis.
I just want to quick capitalize on, just sharing the importance of public education, right? Like public announcements. I think it's something that we did bring up a little bit at the action committee too. And Dice and I are also working on, potentially even involving the local schools like McKinley High School in helping to support some of our social media and like creating those things because it takes time. And a lot of, our young residents have those skills and, giving them an opportunity to collaborate with us in creating that and making public education a little bit more robust so that we can make sure people are aware of what's going on is something we're going to continue looking into and we'll talk about more.
Thank you, board members, for your reports. Anyone else? Okay, let us move on. Did HPD? Anything?
No.
Okay. Okay, 4.1, Keiki Street Festival, Saturday, March 16th. We have Summer Caster from Olawana Loomis. Are you present or online?
Yes, hello. Thanks for having me.
Hey.
I think Megan might have sent over a slide deck as well, with some event details.
Are you able to share that, Summer, if you have it on your, okay. Since we need to get information.
No. Everyone is-
I'm not sure you're gonna be able to share it, Summer. Sorry, this is Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Yeah, it's a PDF. Will the chat let me send that through?
I emailed it over, Kathleen, to you and Spencer.
Okay, what time?
6, I think. I was trying to upload it, but it wouldn't let me drop it in. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Time up.
Okay, thank you. Hold on real quick. We'll try to pull it up. And thank you, everyone. We appreciate your patience as, between 5:45 and 6, Spencer and I and the board members are sitting up here. So if we don't check your email when you send it at 6 p.m., we do advise you to send it a little bit earlier, if possible. Thank you. But while we are doing that, Megan or Summer, could you go over the street festival happening in March?
Yeah, absolutely. So the second annual Keiki Street Festival is back in our Kaka'ako. It's going to be Saturday, March 16th. And then it will be on Awahi Street between Keawe and Coral. Keawe Street between Awahi and Pohukaina, and then we are adding on a small segment of Coral Street, so that'll between Ala Moana Boulevard and Awahi Street. We do have a map to share, so that'll all be, visually you all can see that as well. All residential parking and building driveways will remain accessible. So we are estimating those closures between 7 a.m. and 5:30 on March 16th. And then, as always, safety is our #1 priority. So we will be working with city and county, Department of Transportation on that. We're going to have the Honolulu Police Department, the Honolulu Fire Department, and statewide safety, as well as private security on site as well. We're also going to be implementing safe meetup locations this time around, as this is a keiki event. Our main goal is just to bring families together in the community. We're expecting food vendors, retail vendors, and a variety of activations as well, so kids can really get hands-on activities, learning opportunities to play as well, with emphasis on education. Any questions?
Secretary Rice.
Hi, Summer. My business is at the Coral Commercial Center, which fronts along the street, and the only entrance into the parking lot is Keawe Street or Coral Street. So when you say, because I saw the notice and it says it's all closed. So how can we access the parking lot for our customers? And we do provide transfers from people in Waikiki to our location. How do we get there?
Yeah, great question. So that entrance will be open on Coral Street. We actually start the closure just after that driveway. And that section of the road is just going to be for a stage. We're going to have some live entertainment with keiki performers.
So when you say that driveway, are you talking about the driveway that's closest to Oahu Street or the one that's off of Keawe Street? Or, I mean, there's a driveway off of Keawe Street and a driveway off of Coral Street to enter the parking area. So will both of them be accessible?
Just the one on Coral Street will remain open.
Okay, so your event doesn't go all the way up to Pohukaina Street?
Not on Coral.
Oh,
That closure will start right after the driveway. Yeah. So
okay.
you can kind of see it down there at the bottom. It's just a little bit of Coral.
So we can come from Pohukaina Street towards Ala Moana Boulevard and then turn into the driveway just before Oahu Street.
Correct. Yeah. Pohukaina will remain open, and most of Coral Street until you reach that driveway will be open as well.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Secretary Rice. Summer, I apologize if I missed this, but is this an inaugural event? And if not, or even if so, what is the expected number of people?
So this is our second annual. Last year we had our inaugural event and it was really successful. We were super happy with the turnout. It was around 8,000 attendees. So this year we're of course hoping for a little bit more, around 10,000.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions? Hey, community members? Hey, thank you, Summer and Megan, for being here to present. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4.2, Hawaii Kai JCs. If they're here, we have Vincent Lee from the Hawaii Kai JCs. Okay. Let's move on. Sub-district reports. Board members, do you have any reports within your sub-district? Member Chan.
Okay, update on a couple of the items that were brought up in the past. There was the road problem, street problem, the looked like maybe the sidewalk and the curb area was falling apart. they did do the work on, it turned out to be a gigantic root that was underneath the actual curb and was lifting it up, so they repaired it. They still need to pave it over so that there's not a rough edge, so that was resolved. The termite-ridden dead tree has not been removed. I'm guessing they'll figure it out one day that, okay, we need to take this thing out. The 2 parking meters that were on Kaheka Street have not been replaced. The poles to hold the meters have not been put in. Same on Moana Street, the 2 missing there, the poles have not been installed. There was one meter that had about 6 inches of pole sticking out of the ground and was a major tripping hazard. So some kind-hearted person in the neighborhood painted it red so you could see it so you won't trip over it. I would hate to have the city get sued by somebody tripping over that 6-inch piece of pipe that's sitting on their area. So I would encourage the city to block it off. At one time, someone had put a orange cone on it so you won't trip over it. But cone has been missing now for 2 months. I'm guessing it's pulling up a homeless encampment somewhere. I'm not sure, but it's gone. So I would encourage the city to get on this as soon as possible before an accident happens. Next I want to bring up is Non-Inc. is working on Kemoku at the park. They're doing the construction work. And one of the things that I'm not real happy about is that they went and applied for a permit to allow them to extend the work hours that they can make noise on. When they presented here years, I think maybe 2 years ago, I think it would have been nice if they continued to come back and let the community know, hey, look, we're going to apply for this permit to extend our work hours. And it just gets some community feedback. I think that would really be a good thing. So now I find out that they applied for a night permit. They started last night. We got the notice a couple of days ago. Of course, I wouldn't have listed. I mean, I started firing off emails to like Senator Milwaukee and all these other people. I don't know if the board remembers, a couple of years ago, Moana was doing some night work on Clark Street. And they came every meeting while it was going on to praise everybody. This is what's going on. These complaints we're getting. This is what we're doing to mitigate the complaints. I think they did a really good job in keeping the community informed of what was going on. Now, it would have been nice for NON, as far as public relations and optics is concerned, to be more public about it and to be more transparent about what they're doing, especially when you're closing roads. You're going to be creating a lot of noise outside of the allowable hours, because they had to apply for permits so that they could get more work done within the day. But now, literally, the people who are right next to that development, who live there, they're getting noise 24 hours a day. Now, I asked about it and they said, oh, the majority of the really noisy work will do it before 10 o'clock at night. Well, it was 11 o'clock last night and it was still going on, jackhammering. And, they sent out a notice to us saying, okay, I'm sorry, we're trying to monitor it, but it went past 10 o'clock. So these are the kind of things that going forward for this board, whenever we get another developer come in, and we need to make it really clear to them that if you're going to do and apply for permits outside the normal working hours or night work, you need to come here and at least let the community give you some input. Granted, they sent out a notice, but they really didn't want to address what they were going to do to mitigate until I got all over the case. So, they finally ended, okay, we will not do any more noise after 10. The permit will go for 6 months. We're going to knock it down to 3. These are the, what are you going to do to mitigate sound? Turn off the beepers on our trucks when they back up. But it would really good that we make these developers come to the neighborhood board and at least be open and transparent about what they're doing. And I encourage the board that going forward, whenever a developer makes a presentation that they want to build in our neighborhood, they need to be accountable to the public. You know, I know they can apply for the permits, and for some reason, the city will let them get these permits without even, you know, coming to the public and saying, hey, look, this is what we want to do. We want to make sure it's okay. These are what the plans we have to make it as palatable or as neighborly as possible. But that's not what's happening now. They're just going ahead and doing their business. I get it, they have a right. But, you know, this is our neighborhood. And I think that we should have a say, or at least they should come to these meetings or be required to come to the meetings if they're going to apply for these permits in the future. And then at least give the public a chance to give some input and voice their concerns and how they are going to mitigate these concerns. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chang.
I just have a follow-up. Isn't there a city ordinance about boys after 10?
Yeah,
And so,
according to what they, Sean, you know, I forget his name, Mom, he said, oh yeah, we'll allow it because it's for the public good. Get that? They're saying that we're gonna allow this permit for the public good.
Is that the permitting department? This person?
I guess, I think it's the permit. But
Department of Health?
I think,
Okay.
because it was a noise variance.
Okay, so do we have any elected official from the city council that's on here? Councilman Say, I see that you're on here.
How would that be?
State.
State.
Yeah.
Can we ask them when we get to them?
Yeah, we can ask them.
Okay.
This is just, I'm letting you know what's going on in the district and the
Yeah.
complaints I'm getting from the people in my district.
Thank you. Member Uemoto online.
Thank you. I just wanted to juxtapose that with what I shared with you a couple months ago. You know, one of my tenants, you know, so I actually do offer housing to previously homeless individuals. And this one gentleman was quiet for months. And then only one night, he had he was freaking out and he was yelling past 10 o'clock, and they actually arrested him and pulled him out of the unit for making noise that I couldn't even hear. I was in the front of my building. He was in the back. So there's 2 units between us, but I couldn't hear it, but neighbors could. And they actually pulled him out of the apartment and took him to jail for, you know, and I'm like, what if he was a colicky baby? What, you know, I mean, so it's just interesting that they treat individuals like that, but they let these corporate developers get away with disturbing a huge blocks and blocks of people.
Thank you, Member Uemoto and Member Chang as well for that report. Any other reports from board members?
Yeah, I have one, yeah. You know, I've mentioned before about Pensacola. I'll continue to mention about Pensacola. We put in the speed bumps. And if you haven't seen the speed bumps that's past Rycroft and going up just before you get to the speed bump, you know, I'm not sure what they did, but you can't read speed bump or hump or whatever it's supposed to be. It's all, you know, discombobulated. And so when they're doing these things and they're all of a sudden they put up the speed bumps, for one, the speed bump was for traffic calming because of the pedestrian death, Sarah, at McKinley High School, so I get that. But the speed bumps are not high enough to slow the traffic down. They're still going fast. But now we have another issue because of how they painted it. Second, down on Cook Street, as an example, they put in 2 bike lanes on either side, and they have traffic where you can park your cars. They narrowed Cook Street down to 2 lanes, going up and down. And so whoever designed this, they need to relook at that and fix it. Either remove a bike lane or, you know, just look at the traffic pattern. Because in the afternoon, during the peak period, we've created a bigger problem of traffic on Cook Street. And then there's some restaurants along the road there that cars are trying to park and get there and they can't turn around and park. And it becomes, people are doing some illegal changes and turning around so they can get parking during the peak period time, and if you look at the traffic, it's just backing up. So this, going back to what member Chang was saying, when we have these presentation that's coming in, we really should take a look at the whole and rather than just what's happening at that time, because when you look at the bigger picture, it's not working, particularly as our population is growing and there's more traffic in all of the streets, because now you have these condominiums are going up and they're above the threshold, and they're now all 400 feet. And now you have, for example, on Kapilani Boulevard, as another example, it's even worse because you have 400 feet condos, peak time in the morning and the afternoon. It's not bearable. Same thing as the traffic, as I mentioned, Pensacola and Pi'ikoi, trying to get from Kapilani Boulevard on Pi'ikoi to get to the freeway in the afternoon, to get to go a block and a half, it can take you 20 minutes because of all the traffic calming, the street signaling, and it's just a whole bunch of things that when they did the traffic study, it was, I think some of it was during COVID, so you didn't have much traffic. Now we have an increase in traffic, and that's a concern.
Thank you, Member Mariana, Member Rice, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
I think it's Complete the Streets group organization, whoever they are. And I don't know what their relationship is to the Department of Transportation, but that could be another special action committee, separate action committee to have a discussion and invite the Department of Transportation to us. Because I agree with Member Mariano, there's so many streets where they're making them narrower as opposed to allowing the traffic to flow, along with the no turn on right at street corners where there are no pedestrians whatsoever, but yet these signs are up in very odd places. And to me, it slows down the traffic as opposed to allowing traffic to flow, especially in areas where there aren't pedestrians or a lot of them. Something like that works in Waikiki or downtown Honolulu, but to have it in areas in between, it just makes zero sense to me. So I would like to see that as a sub-action committee, because it infuriates people.
Okay, Member Davis.
I think really quickly, I'll add this to an action committee agenda and kind of timeline out again, how do we deal with some of these while also continuing to address our residentially challenged community questions. But in general, I think what I'm hearing too is this kind of speed, cost, quality triangle where we're trying to get all three, and we can get as close as we can, but if we want them done well, it's going to take some time, right? If we try and do it faster to avoid traffic issues, then we lose quality potentially. And if we don't want to lose quality and we want it done faster, now it goes into extended hours in order to get done. So I think we just need to figure out which one of those and how do we create structure around that we can again write a resolution for.
It just feels like the Complete the Streets groups, who's responsible for bicycle lanes and these redirection speed humps, they're operating in a vacuum. Yes, they came one time and presented Kuhio Avenue in Waikiki to us. Sure. But during my term here, they never mentioned Pensacola, Cook Street, or some of the others. And who charters them? And do they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to do? I'd like to know that. I would imagine other people would like to know that as well.
Thank you.
They created a problem on Kuhio. It's an example of what their recent modification.
In preparation for that, so that we might be able to also invite Complete Streets to an action committee that's talking about infrastructure. Are you guys able to send a list of streets or current things, so they can kind of understand and be able to prepare so that we can have a productive discussion about those things? Would be really helpful.
Thank you, Member Davis. And Secretary Rex. Let's move on.
Just a quick question.
Member Farringer.
Hi, thank you. I'm wondering if we've ever received, as a board, documents or documentation regarding accident data in these areas. Do we know? the number of accidents that are occurring in these areas where they're doing these projects?
Well, according to the police report, we don't have that many accidents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're reporting. So it's kind of hard to judge on that. But I can tell you there's lots of near misses. For example, Kapilani and Ke'iamoku. When you're taking that right on Ke'iamoku to go on to Kapilani, you can't turn right, but you have to wait for the pedestrians. And by the time the pedestrian cross and you can clearly make that right turn, only 2 cars can make that turn. And if you've been waiting for half an hour to, car number 15 to get up there, as soon as you get an opportunity, you're going to go through that red light to make that turn because you've been waiting your turn all that time.
Well, I agree with you, member Mariano, and I just want to say my personal experience, and that's why I asked for data. My personal experience is that Pensacola, I've had more near misses since they've added these things. I drive it regularly, and I really truly have had more near misses. And I've been paying attention to it. The other thing that's concerning to me is, like, for example, on Lunalilo, where you're getting on the freeway and the left lane goes to the post office and you're not supposed to cross over. And that's a very dangerous spot because that middle lane, people are going over that solid white line, and there should be some posts there, right? That don't allow cars to go through. That to me seems like way more of a priority than what's going on in some of the other areas they're working on. And that's why I asked about accident data.
I think to build on that, we can get that data from the appropriate agencies at a future meeting. But in any case, for the sake of time, it's probably best that we move on. But I think we know what our next steps are.
Anybody, like, send me either like street or crossroads that, again, you would like complete streets to maybe prepare or share information if we're going to invite them. I'm sure there's a lot of them, so, just send them in a list and I'll compile them and send it over. And or so that we can discuss those particular ones further and map it out and see if there's anything that we can see.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Member
Thank
Carringer.
you. Thank you, because safety is our #1 priority.
Okay, let's move on to item 6, residents and community concerns. We received an email regarding a large dog running around Kaka'aka Waterfront Park on the Eva side, and the anonymous individual who reported this to NCO mentioned that he had been bitten by stray dogs before and is concerned that that dog could attract someone. So I just wanted to bring that up so it's on record. Any other resident community concerns? Mr. Franklin Chung? Yes.
I have 2 issues I want to bring up to the board, and I won't take 3 minutes. I can guarantee you I don't. One is a program that you may or may not be aware of is the Real Property Tax Relief Program that kicks in around July of every year. Everybody has to reapply, even if they got it the prior year. This is a program that started in 2005 or 6 or so, and it's geared towards lower income homeowners, many of whom would be naturally fixed income seniors, but there's no age limit to it. Basically, there is 3 qualifications. One is you have to have a home exemption. 2, you cannot own any other property anywhere. 3, the total gross income of all the title holders as of this last application period cannot exceed 80,000. It used to be 60, but the city council raised it to 80. So there were 5,000 applications this go around for the next fiscal tax year, 24 to 25. So you can get more information about this at honolulu.gov/treasury. There'll be a link to a brochure that would have, that's last application brochure. There won't be a new one until later on. And you can also get the applications later on when it comes online, middle of the year. The Second one is, I'll bring it up here just like I would any other neighborhood board. It's a highway traffic problem at one particular on-ramp. Waialae coming down at the bottom of Waialae by Lower Campus Road. Turn to the on-ramp to H1 West, or you go to King Street and Hawaii Humane Society. It is a death trap on that on-ramp to get on the freeway during the winter, wet winter, when the weeds have grown on the embankment, blocking the view of all the cars trying to get on the freeway and the cars from seeing people on the on-ramp. And it got so bad that I just stopped using it last winter. It's not enough for them to cut the weeds more often. I think the good solution of that would be just to uproot the weed and the soil and just pave that little embankment over so people can see what's going on when they try to get on the freeway and the cars. Anyway, so I'll be raising that, issue whenever I can. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tillman, for coming here today. Appreciate it, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other residents and community concerns? Vice Chair Chi.
I just wanted to bring up, this was a concern that was forwarded to me by a neighbor in the area. And I was gonna bring this up to HPD, but I don't think HPD is on here. So Ben, hi, you get to listen to this. If you don't mind, forwarding this on to, I think, DTS and HPD. Oh, sorry, do you need me to talk louder?
I'm speaking about.
Okay, thank you. Basically, this person reported that they were trying to catch the bus at the Baratania bus stop, and there are two people engaging in behaviors like drugs at the bus stop. And when the person reported it to the bus driver didn't take any action. And so if just for future reference, if HPD and I believe DTS would be the appropriate agencies, they could just be notified to, bus operators should be reporting this kind of stuff to HPD if the community brings up a concern. That would be super cool.
Absolutely. We can check on the policies for that. The thing that would be very helpful is to know if there's a date and a stop associated with this complaint so that we can actually try to make some sort of determination as to whether there's a pattern or anything like that, because otherwise it's really just kind of abstract information. Certainly regardless of what the procedures are, just so you're aware.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the bus stop is the one by, the Baratania one in front of Times Supermarket.
There's Times Supermarket.
Yeah. And then Time, unfortunately, I don't have, but yeah, there's like, information regarding what the action that's supposed to be taken. That we sent over, I'll forward it to the concerned individual. Cool, thank you.
Any chance that you happen to know the route number?
Ooh, I did not know the route number.
Okay, that's fine.
But it wasn't on the bus, right?
It's not on the bus, but in the bus.
It was in a
stop.
bus stop.
Bus
So
stop.
the route doesn't matter, it's the location.
Well, it does in terms of determining the staff, right? So if we know the route number, we know the time of day, there's something like that DTS can do. Not that that's something I would share, but that's the kind of information that's most useful for them. Because my imagination, and again, I don't know for sure, we are going to check policies, but my imagination is there is a protocol for addressing this kind of concerns. And it sounds like that protocol perhaps wasn't followed, but I don't have the details, so I can't do anything with that.
Do we know if the buses have dash cam?
If the buses have dash cams, I don't know offhand. I don't want to speculate. I do not know the answer.
Okay, because if they did, then the date and time, the location would be something we can pull up the dash cam.
That's something I can remember if they want to share that. But
Sure.
if they do, I'll forward it to you. If not,
Sure.
then, yeah, thanks for working off the board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Chi. Member Davis?
Sorry, I just wanted to share, because I see the resident online as well, and not necessarily directly at you, but just a general concern, and I know Senator Moriwaki's representative is online as well, but the the residentially challenged, community encampment on Kiave Street, which was brought up at the last meeting, was cleared, a couple of days after. And then maybe a week later, came right back. And Senator Moriwaki did follow up with me and the resident, in terms of just recognizing that it was back. But since then, there hasn't been anything done to address it. I know that kind of brings us back into this, again, residential continuing challenges with, you know, where do we put them? Because again, they were kind of swept out of there and they came right back in. So not a permanent solution, but I know access to those sidewalks is important. And making sure that, again, we're not kind of bearing the burden on one particular group of our community to kind of put up with those things. But again, I don't have a solution. I just do want to address that. It did kind of come back up and that encampment is still existing right now on Kiave Street across from Down to Earth.
Okay, thank you, Member Davis. Then, moving on to reports. Mr. Ben Sullivan, great that you're already up here. It is your turn.
Thank you. That was insane.
And I understand you also have a response from a community member that brought up a concern regarding accessibility last week, and I think he is online.
So I just received my notes from NCO this morning, and they certainly have a number of issues that were addressed. Not all of them that were brought up, of course, but I'll read through and do my best to cover them. But I try to stay within, so just kind of go through.
If you could stay within 3 minutes,
Yeah,
awesome.
could you come closer here?
I can come closer. Sure. I heard that table.
Yeah. Got a mic right for you.
Okay.
And thank you for being here today in person.
I-
I always appreciate that.
I thought it would be easier to be in person as opposed to on the computer screen. So it's great to see you all in person and meet you. My name is Ben Sullivan. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. Before I go into the notes I received from NCO, I do want to make a note on the Complete Streets question. So Complete Streets is a working group within the Department of Transportation Services. And they do quite a bit of outreach. Obviously, in this case, it sounds like there wasn't outreach for the specific project you mentioned here. I will say that there is a website at www.honolulu.gov/complete streets, and they put out an annual report every year. In that annual report, it documents all the projects they are working on that are in planning, and then all the projects that are getting ready to go into construction. So it's a great way to preview what might be coming, but certainly noted as far as your concerns about projects that have happened in this neighborhood area that maybe weren't discussed. So thank you for that feedback. So going to my list from NCO. Thank you, Member Davis, for getting ahead of me on the encampment at Kiawe and so between Halikuila and Puhukaina, apparently on December 20th, there was an action, and it sounds like since then people have moved back. So this is the problem that we all face, right? We don't want to just displace people just because they're there. We want to keep the sidewalks open and available, especially for accessibility issues. And so we'll have to make a determination as to what next steps might be appropriate for that one. There was also a note about drug distribution operations, and that was stated to be happening at Imperial Plaza at the intersection of Kapiolani and Cook Street. So I apologize because I don't have all the members' names cited or the members of the public's names cited on my document, but I'm just trying to raise the issue to you. According to HPD, they surveilled the area December 27th, 28th, and January 2nd, and unfortunately, they did not observe any illegal activity in the area. And so that's what we have for that one, and we'll have to keep our eyes on it. And if there's additional reports that can be offered, I think that's great. I've heard that HPD asked before for people to try to report things as they see them. I know that's not always possible, but certainly it allows for them to be responsive where they can. I do not have updates from the Department of Facility Maintenance on parking meters, and I wish I did. But I do want to it's nice to be in the room because I can ask for clarity. My understanding on this issue is that you've said there's several places where it's actually the stem coming out of the ground that hasn't been installed, and that's the delay, and that the HPD is pretty good about getting the head in place. So we've got the issue documented. We can continue to follow up with DFM and find out if there's a response for next month. My apologies for not having a response on that today. Same with the signs, the street sign replacement. Request to replace the street name sign at Beretania and Kapiolani. That's also a DFM issue, and I will see if we can continue to follow up for a future meeting. Temporary housing shelters. Member Iwamoto requested some updates on the number of shelters created during Mayor Blangiardi's time in office. And so one of the clarifications we wanted to offer is that a lot of the shelters that are out there are actually they're not city-owned shelters. They're funded through the Department of Community Services. And there are variations in the number of beds that have to do really with the status of given property. So it's not a planned thing. It's like these people have leases and something might happen where a building might need to be renovated or the lease expires and somebody ends up moving their operation. So I have a bunch of notes on some of those, and I can read them in detail if you'd like that. That's available. But basically what I received back from the housing agency is a note on some of the comings and goings that have taken place in that space. And again, knowing that that's funding that comes through the federal government and it goes through the Department of Community Services to provide those beds. But there wasn't in this account that I received like an allocation of the number of beds before and the number of beds after. So would you like me to go into the details on that? I also have a couple other items as well.
Yeah, you can do it in 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Okay, so there's awareness that the next step shelter closed in Kaka'ako and apparently it was due to OHA needing to convert the space for its programs. And Waikiki Health Center, who ran it, opened the Keauhao shelter in Mo'iliili in its place. Another shelter, the family assessment shelter run by Catholic Charities, closed in Kaka'ako as their location was a DPR maintenance facility. And the city and county of Honolulu is working with the city to transition its program, possibly also to Mo'iliili in the near future. So Safe Haven's lease came to an end on Pa'uahi Street as the building is in need of repairs for safety and sanitary reasons. So all occupants have been relocated within another mental health Kukua program. So, you know, the city's primary efforts in housing are really about creating more permanent housing. And you may have seen news recently about some property purchases near rail, other things. There's definitely a big push in the administration to figure out how do we boost those numbers for permanent housing. Obviously, that doesn't address the temporary housing question, but they're both part of the larger question and the larger problem. So I'm just trying to be responsive to that as well. Let me see. City has funded many of the emergency shelters currently operating, such as IHS Family Promise, Halekipa, and PACT. I don't know what PACT is. It's an acronym I'm not familiar with. Also RISE, which looks like another acronym.
Together.
Okay, thank you for that. Able to increase so RISE was able to increase its available bed space when they opened a 6-bedroom, 4-bath home in Kalihi for young adults 18 to 24. And then in addition, IHS has opened Imi Ola Piha, homeless transfer and triage program for those needing detox services in Iwilei. So the recommendation was to contact Department of Community Services for additional information. I hope that's an adequate response. That's what I got.
Yeah, remember everyone online.
Yeah, thank you so much. So when Anton Krupke, you know, the homeless person for the city and county of Honolulu, when he first came on board, he told us there were only 50, you know, we do the point in time count, so we know exactly how many unsheltered individuals there are in Honolulu County. And so he said that there are only 50% of the beds for that target population available. And so my question was, and so it's that relationship of numbers that I want to know if you're actually narrowing so that, because even though permanent housing, of course, that's the ideal, the reality is people need to go into temporary housing in order then to transition into permanent housing. That no one gets off the street directly into permanent housing. So that's the relationship of numbers that I feel is most important, and that we the citizens, that's an important number to hold, you know, the mayor's administration accountable to narrowing that number, so it's more like, and that you guys set those goals like 60%, you know, we're aiming for 70%, now we're aiming for 80%, so that we don't think you're just sweeping people from sidewalk to sidewalk, but actually, you know, getting them into a temporary shelter where they can get more wraparound services and then transition into permanent housing. So it's that number, the relationship between point in time count and available beds for those individuals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Emoto. Member Davis, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry, I was just, and it might be a little bit crazy, but I'm kind of wondering about what's the step in between our residents who are living on the sidewalks where they, again, aren't allowed to be, and that's part of the ACLU's lawsuit, versus, or between that and then even temporary housing. Because we know that a lot of the residents are kind of refusing temporary housing, aren't going into it. Is there a place where they are allowed to be that isn't necessarily on the sidewalks? Again, like we're talking about basically an allowable encampment, but at least there's a location, or we can determine a location where that is a temporary piece, because otherwise we don't have an in-between. We go from pushing people around on the sidewalks and refusing temporary housing, but also no in-between in terms of where they are allowed to be.
I'm not going to answer because I don't know the answer.
There is,
but
it's a question. It's not really
I have the question.
Yeah.
I do know that there's among the housing choices that we talked about just there's a very diverse array of different choices, right? So there's, and then I also know that in conversations that I've been privy to within the city, one of the issues we have is that a very significant portion of the folks that are homeless don't want to go into any kind of a shelter. And so that, that's part of the challenge, right? Is that, yes, we can provide a bed, but do you want the bed? Are you agreeable to the terms that come with sleeping in that bed, which might mean, suspending drug use or something like that? And again, I'm not an expert in these issues. I'm just trying to share the complexity. And then I guess what I'm looking for is the best way to communicate, because it's fair. Your question is certainly fair, Member Iwamoto. And I'm much further along in my understanding of what you're asking, to be able to try to work within the city and try to bring back some more details about the goals. And I think I can do that. But this is not a live conversation in that I'm not the expert for homelessness, right? I'm a representative. I spend most of my time, if you want to know something about our electric vehicle policy, I'm your guy, but otherwise it's tricky.
Member Mariano, let's go with Member Behringer first online, and then yourself, and then Ikaiko.
I'll be quick. I just want to suggest something, throw something out there. We talked about this in our committee meeting, our special action. Can you all hear me? I'm not sure if you can hear me. Yeah? Okay. We're needing housing. You're talking about interim housing, Member Davis, lots of different things about this has anyone ever suggested, is there any opportunity that's present that we're not aware of for people to get tax incentives to offer their housing, their home, their land towards homeless housing? Is there something like that that's available now?
No.
Is that directed at me? I feel like it is. And again, I'm in the
It's directed
position
at
of-
everyone, but it is, yeah, it's
Yes.
directed at everyone.
Tax incentives for offering land.
That issue about that in between that you mentioned, Emma, that's a good one for the action committee.
Yeah, that's what we talked about,
Yeah.
because we would need to craft.
I thought about it between action committee and now, so
Yeah.
it's the first time I thought of it.
And that's what we have to kind of craft that resolution so that it can go forward and make sense, because there is no formal policy on it. And when you're talking about tax incentives and stuff, you're talking about law, and it's got to go through committee, and then it has to go through the city council, because it's local, and then if it's a state, and it's a state. Yeah. That takes a while.
I just bring this up because we're talking about interim housing, right? We need interim housing, and this may, we've got to find a way. Representative Tyler Dos Santos, I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. He's just presented this great thing during the new session regarding new housing. It's more permanent housing once again. It's not necessarily, I know it's a lot of different housing, but we need to be focusing on interim housing.
Okay, Member Behringer, thank you for bringing that up. So I'm not super versed in this, but the governor just gave his State of the State address on Monday, and he covered that a little bit, but it was more towards Maui housing. and short-term rentals and turning them into long-term rentals to help out those that were displaced by the Maui wildfires. Connected to what you're saying, but hopefully we get to see more of that on a larger statewide scale. So I'm unsure if the governor's reps are able to delve into that when we go through their report. But I just wanted to let you know that the discussion at some point, there's a version of that discussion that's going on, even if it's starting with Maui, because right now that seems to be the legislature's priority for 2024. Just wanted to give you an Okay, Mr. Sullivan, any other updates?
Yeah, these should be quicker, but let me provide them I'm sure it's valuable information. So there was a question about trash pickup at McKee Christian Church. And the response is that refuse collection superintendent who spoke to the collection crew, did speak to the collection crew, make sure they did not miss collection at the church. I hope they haven't, but that was a question and an answer that we received from the Department of Environmental Services. Another one from Environmental Services, there was a question about, there was some illegal dumping happening on Elm Street near McDonald's at the old Meadow Gold building. And they did visit Elm Street and cleaned up the illegally dumped items. Hopefully that won't happen again soon. I hope it already hasn't, because that would be no fun for me. And then environmental hazard, request the removal of debris at the end of Magic Island behind the wooden fence. So this was not an item folks were able to locate. So for whoever reported this item, we might ask for a photograph to try to understand better. But I know that the city had sent people out there and they were not able to locate the wooden fence. So I would ask that you don't tell me verbally, but if you can provide some very specific electronic or other format, and you could.
Encampment on the other side of the fence. That's what it is.
It was
not
cleared last week. I went there and it wasn't there.
Oh,
And I
but
saw
they-
that.
Okay. And I don't mean to be rude. I'm just, the challenge with this type of information is that you're giving me information about a place I'm not aware of. And by the time it gets to somebody else, the details are vague and they have no idea. And then they go and they try to do something and, yeah, so I'm just looking for a better system to report back to you guys more effectively. That's
Well, I
all.
think it's something worth monitoring. So if she reported it, you went to check Spencer, it's gone. But you have to go back because what happens is, it's like the whack-a-mole. They move away, then they come back. And then it come back in vengeance and they get bigger.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan, two more updates, thank you.
Two more updates. One is we don't have an answer, and but I want to provide that because that means we have to continue to chase it. So 1067 Kapilani and Kamakee, this was about the landscaping and who's responsible for it. We didn't get an answer on that yet. And the final one, there was a report of a sinkhole. This was carried over from November, and this was at Kaheka and Leona Streets. Is that right? It's fixed. Yeah, apparently the inspection was, they thought it was actually damage from tree roots as opposed to going down, things were coming up, but regardless, it's a good end. Okay. That's all I have. I appreciate the opportunity to be here in person. I'm going to try to do this more.
Go back to the storage facility of Kamakee and Kapiolani. I was.
Yes. Yes.
Walk by there every day.
Okay.
And because it rained for a week or so.
Yes.
The weeds have grown in really well and it's nice and green. And part of the sprinkler system does work, but it's not grass, it's weeds.
Okay.
I've stopped in there twice now. And the gals behind the desk are very polite. I identify myself. I give them my name and my phone number. And there's this guy, Chris, who's the district manager for public storage.
Yeah.
And he has yet to give me the courtesy of a return phone call. And I would continue to stop in and harass them in the most polite way I can and ask them to please clean up their act. It's really ugly. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rice.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Sullivan, I think you're good with your updates.
I'm all set. If you guys are.
Thank you again for addressing our concerns.
Okay.
Sorry, apologies, the Kaika Old's online.
Itaika, unmute.
Hey, thank you. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I just had a quick question for you, sir, in regards to what you mentioned about the Family Assessment Center that was previously at the Kaka'ako waterfront.
Okay.
Also,
I can write down your question. I won't know much about it.
Oh, yeah,
but,
please.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead.
So you had mentioned that the Family Assessment Center may be getting relocated into Mo'iliili.
That's what my notes said, I believe, yes. Let me double check. Yes. Run by Catholic Charities, and the note really just says, CCH working with the city to transition its program, possibly also to Mo'iliili. So it's not a definitive statement. So that was just a suggestion in the notes I have, and I don't know the nature of that. So I can try to find out more. Is there more specific comment that you could point me at? Or concern or question?
No, I guess you're the messenger, and I appreciate your situation here. So for those who aren't aware, the Family Assessment Center was one of the 3 emergency shelters that we had here in Honolulu. Since it was closed down and turned into a storage facility for landscaping equipment, we're down to 2. And so the idea of getting it back up and running here in Honolulu would be vital for addressing the homeless situation that we have here. Otherwise, we keep having to push all of our unsheltered residents out leeward. But thank you so much for sharing that information. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarity on that. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your update and responding to the concerns that we had. We appreciate it.
See you in a month.
7:37 p.m. Moving on to Council Member Calvin Say.
Aloha, everyone. This is Puolani Smith Kauhane, legislative aide for Councilman Say's office. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody's good so far? I just wanted to give you an update of council members' offices of the monthly newsletter. It's already in the chat. There's also some other WebEx links or website links that we have available, which is the Alawai Watershed Control Project it's in the chat. We also have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Honolulu District Civil Works Project that is in the chat. Highlights of the real property tax 2024, and also I believe member Franklin Chun from the Kaimoki board gave me more of an update of 2025 real property tax updates. Let's see what else. Also, the Complete Street annual report is actually in the chat as well. If you guys want to look at the Complete Street annual report for 2023, we have that available. Let me see what other updates we have. So the month of, so since last time we had a meeting up until recent, we have some concerns that was from the community. So we have some, what we're doing is we're doing the concerns of what was called into our office and also what the members have actually requested for each board. Every time when there's a board meeting. So we had a constituent, Kimo Spencer, called about installation of the raised crosswalks at the stoplights on Kahakai Street and Mahukona Street, as well as the third one between both of these streets. A request was submitted, and that's in progress at the moment. We also had a concern from Sherilyn Trinidad regarding the homeless situation by Sheridan Street facing Walmart. There was a request that was submitted to our departments, and right now it's in progress. That was done on the 5th of January. We also had a constituent, Brian Yamane, called about lights at Pensacola and South Street that they were not synchronized. So we're working, I spoke with Brian and we submitted a request to get that in sync, or at least look at, have the Department of Transportation look at it and see if that will be, we can put that back into sync, or if it's another reason of concern. So what we had from the members of the board, member Rodney Chang, thank you so much for updating the board regarding all of your responses. There was, I believe 4 or 5 responses that we needed to get to you about certain things, various of concerns in the area. The one about the dead tree on Ahana Street, I did get a update from the Department of Urban Forestry. They said they're gonna work on the tree stump, and hopefully they'll get it done by January 2024 at the end of it, or mid-February of 2024. let's see what else. The abandoned vehicle that you requested a response or an update about on, in front of the Continental Apartments at 909 to 933 Cahека Street. HPD went out and they did not see the abandoned vehicle in front of the apartment. So, but if there's any more concerns, please call and report an abandoned vehicle, and the number is 808-768-2530. Again, to report an abandoned vehicle, it's 808-768-2530. And then, let's see. Oh, in regards to the parking meters, yes, we'll work on that as well, about trying to maintain that red residue, or the red area that was sprayed red. For us, we're gonna try and see if we can maintain that for you. But there is still in progress if they're gonna reinstall the meters or not in that area off of 920 Caheka Street. And then I had a call last week from member Rice, and she asked me to look into the Ala Moana Regional Park McCoy Pavilion areas, and we're looking at it's in progress of construction, or in revitalization in the second quarter of 2024. And then also in regards to those places that she requested for maintenance of the grassy areas, I did request I did request through the Department of Facility Maintenance to see if they can actually take care of that. If that's something that's private, where the owner of the building has to do it, or it's something that the Department of Facility Maintenance can do. If anybody has any questions or concerns, I'm happy to take them back to Councilman Say.
Just want to clarify that the pole, that little pole sticking out of the ground, is actually on Ahana Street.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Ahana Street.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Westman? Honey. Nope. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Mahalo. I'll be here for the rest of the meeting if anybody has
Thank
questions.
you. Council member Tyler Dos Santos Town or Robin Hensky?
Everybody all had a great start to the new year. So I have a short list. I've already shared our newsletter in the chat, but our Constituent Services Director, Lynn Robinson, has received at least 2 riser requests that are currently pending, which are posters that are in an area of Kaka'ako that have been requested to be removed. And second, the graffiti removal of at Memorial Park, or the Memorial, I'm sorry, yeah, the Waterfront Memorial at Waterfront Park in Kaka'ako. And then council member has also joined us, and we'll be here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Board, okay, community, member Rice.
Is it possible that you could look into at Kaka'ako Waterfront Park, when you go up the hill to where they have that lookout point just beyond the Egimaru Memorial? There's the whole wall up there at the very top is just really bad with graffiti. And it's constant. It'd be really wonderful because a lot of people from Japan go there to pay their respects to the Egimaru Memorial, and they continue up to the top of the view. And it really looks terrible. So if there's a way it can be cleaned up, only to get graffitied, I'm sure. But if someone could monitor that, maybe the park superintendent, whomever, it would be nice for the community to have it real pretty. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put that in. I work out at the Kaka'ako Park, and that compass, I guess there's a compass mosaic up there, constantly gets graffitied.
Yes, constantly. It's a shame. This is so pretty.
Okay. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, council member. And thank you, Ms. Hensky as well. Moving on, State Representative Scott Nishimoto or Taylor Doxey.
Aloha, Chair and Board. This is Taylor. I just wanted to share that there will be a blood drive happening at Kankakee High School this Thursday, happening throughout the day. So if you're interested, please call our office and we can help you sign up. But otherwise, I'm happy to take any of the concerns back to the representative.
Thank you, Taylor. Concerns, board? Okay, thank you for your report. Representative Adrian Tam.
Aloha, this is Laura from Representative Tam's office. I'm here to take any questions you may have for us.
Board questions? Okay, no questions from the board or the community. Thank you for being here today. Speaker Scott Psyche or Frank Represenski?
Hey, Kathleen, this is Scott. I'm here. So I'm going to make a couple of announcements on behalf of myself as well as Senator Moriwaki. There's two really big announcements that we wanted to make. The first is that just happened very recently. Last week, the governor signed new rules for HCDA that govern the Kakako Makai section, and that the rule change prohibits residential development at Kakako Makai. So this rule is in alignment with our state law that has prohibited residential development, high-rise residential development at Kakako Makai since the year 2005. So they took formal action on that at the agency level. I wanted to note that the rules still allow for commercial development at Kakako Makai up to 200 feet, which is approximately 20 stories. So the allowance of commercial use has always been in place and it continues to be in place. The second announcement relates to the Kakako Road. So as you know, for the past 9 years, we have been working on the conversion of private roads that were wrongfully taken by a private company about 10 years ago. As you know, that company was charging residents and businesses to park on certain roads in Kakako. And working with the Attorney General and some businesses, we filed a lawsuit to stop that practice. And we won in court 3 years ago. As a result of that, the governor just signed an executive order that transfers these roads from the state to the city and county of Honolulu. So the city is now the owner of these private roads in Kakako, and the need for repairs and maintenance will, rest with the city. So we're just thankful to all of the residents, all of the businesses that have been so patient over the years as we work to resolve this issue. And hopefully, with the transfer of title to the city and with proper maintenance, the roads will be made much more safer for not just for vehicles, but especially for pedestrians. And the third announcement is, as you know, the legislature opened our session last Wednesday. So we are now in the bill drafting mode. I believe Senator Moriwaki is probably working right now on drafting some of her bills as well. So once the bills are all introduced this week, then committees will start hearing bills probably beginning next week. And we're scheduled to adjourn on Friday, May 3rd. So that's my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Speaker Psyche. Member Mariano.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback, Speaker Psyche. I had a hard time hearing your first announcement. I just want to make sure I get clarity on it. What you're saying is there'll be no residential housing being built on the Makai, that area of the waterfront? The Kakako Makai, is that correct?
Yes, that's
So,
correct.
yeah,
That's
so, okay, but then there's also opportunities for businesses to be built there up to 20 stories. Is that what I
Yes.
heard?
That's correct.
Okay, so the question that I had, I understand the need for that. You know, if we're short of housing and, you know, part of the thing, I think what OHA was trying to do was create housing opportunities for the local Hawaiians. Why can't we have a mixture of housing and businesses? It's too late.
Sure. So that, in 2005, the legislature approved a law that banned residential development on the Makai side of Kaka'ako, and that was in line with an overall approach or strategy of prohibiting shoreline development, high-rise residential development on the shoreline. So that was in keeping with the entire air stretch from Kaka'ako all the way through to all of Moana. So that was one of the purposes of that legislation. That legislation was initiated by citizen groups that opposed residential development. Mainly it was the surfers at Point Panic at Kaka'ako who opposed that development. They continue to oppose that development. There are opportunities, as I mentioned, there have always been opportunities for commercial development, which would be just as lucrative for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I also want to note that at the time that the legislation was passed in 2005, the owner of that land was the state of Hawaii. It was not the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Okay, well, thank you. It was hard for me to hear you, so thanks for the clarification.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mariano. Thank you, Speaker Shaker. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Davis.
Sorry, I know you mentioned development on the Makai side. I do want to make a comment that 20 stories is still pretty tall in terms of, shoreline development if we're already blocking residential development for commercial development. I think, again, I know it might be a done and dusted topic, but, I think banning residential development, but continuing to allow commercial development is something I'd like to hear more about if you want to comment on, and just like why that was allowed. But my follow-up kind of main question is about the development of the Makua side, because I know that the HCDA is, holding a hearing, and I don't know the specific date on that. But on that is the addition of hotels being allowed to be constructed in the Makua side of the Kaka'ako district, which our board has drafted and submitted a resolution in our, not support, or kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's opposite of support. Opposition, thank you. Our opposition of the building of hotels or hotel condos within the Kaka'ako Ala Moana area. So, I know we've submitted that resolution, but to see it kind of come up, and I've done some research too on the public kind of input that's been done on that, which is pretty opposed to hotel development from the public perspective in terms of the data they've collected. So again, just surprised to kind of see it showing up both with our board, opposing the construction of hotels, condos, and a lot of the data that's coming from the community and displayed on the HCDA site, showing opposition to the construction of hotels in the area. Sorry, that's kind of wondering, why that's been added, or what are we doing to kind of address that when there is a lot of opposition from both, our board and the residential community.
Okay, so I think you said the Makua side of Kaka'ako. Did you mean the Mauka side of Kaka'ako?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, so the Mauka
Slightly
side.
embarrassing, but Mauka, yeah.
Yeah, my understanding, HCD is gonna appear later on the agenda. We probably should clarify with them, but my understanding is that the current rules do not allow for hotel development on the Mauka side, as well as on the Makai side.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Member Davis. Appreciate that. It is now 7:55. Moving on to Senator Chair Moriwaki or Charles Mizumoto.
Aloha, everyone. Charles, on behalf of Senator Moriwaki, I apologize that she couldn't make it. You have our report. I put it in the chat. Just one added thing on top of what the speaker said. So we've been getting a lot of complaints on Kiave Street. You know, that street that's by Fisher, and then there's that empty lot, and so there's a lot of homeless there. They were going to do a stored property ordinance enforcement there, but the pit count delayed it a little bit. And you know, just to mention, Senator Moriwaki did help out with the pit count this morning, and so she was out there with them. But and she does care about the homeless and wants to get them to a better place. But the area along Kiave, we had a lot of complaints from residents, and so the Parks Department said that along with the city, they're going to be conducting an SPO on the 28th of this month. And so hopefully that we can get them to a better place and also address the concerns of our residents. If you have any questions, I can take that back to her. Thanks.
Thank you, Charles. Member Rice.
Hi there, Charles. In addition to Kiave Street, the area we just spoke to, if there's a pathway between the dog park off of Hoboken Street and Mother Waldron Park, so it goes from Hoboken to Polypowilla Street. There's a new homeless encampment in that little narrow pathway. And that pathway is used from Polypowilla Street, obviously to walk for people with dogs who want to walk through there. It's kind of really ugly. They've spread out all their personal items, a houseless community there. It's growing by the day. So if you could please have the SPO folks look into that as well, maybe at the same time when they're doing the Yahweh Street. I know the community would be very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, I will mention that to them. And then I know also there's sort of persistency around Mother Waldron Park, and you know, that just jogged my memory as well. So I'll mention that to them as well if they can do that.
Perimeter now on Cook Street, and they just kind of float around. But just in the last week, this little community popped up on the pathway there.
Okay, I'll let them know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate you being here tonight for your report. Moving on to governor's representative. This is exciting because I don't think we've had 3 representatives from the governor's office in a while. So thank you to the DCCA team and welcome to our neighborhood board meeting.
Sit over here. Florida, my name is William Neal. I'm the Communications Director at DCCA, the State of Florida Department of Commerce Consumer Affairs. So our team here is now this governor's representatives to the neighborhood board number 11, Moana Kaka'ako. I also handle the number 12 Moana board as well. But transitioning going forward, I have my team kind of supporting primarily on Moana Kaka'ako board. So just want to introduce Joshua Cole and Ashley Stallings. So you guys want to do something? Say a quick word about yourself?
No, just glad to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this neighborhood board. I worked at city council previous to here, so I was more so along the District 8 side, but happy to meet with all of you and kind of just discuss further developments that we can provide for this area. So just to help facilitate governor's messages.
So I also don't have much to add other than I'm excited to be here and I'm new to this line of work. So I think this is also a great opportunity just to hear what's going on in the community and common concerns, that sort of thing. So I appreciate you allowing us to be here. Not that you have much of a choice, you're kind of stuck with us, but we're excited.
Thanks. So kind of moving on to the governor's report, we dropped, I'm not sure if we actually dropped it yet, but into the chat, the link to the governor's newsletter. We encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already. And in addition to the link to the newsletter, we've also dropped the link to the governor's state address, which was just conducted on Monday, this past Monday, where he highlighted a range of initiatives and and highlights from the first year in office. There are a lot of items on the state of state, which includes highlights of the past year and future proposals and initiatives in the hopper. Some of the things that I do want to highlight is the state of state did focus on clearly the Maui wildfires, help and a path forward, the cost of living and affordability, homelessness, affordable housing, and some of the other initiatives for just the quality of life for our residents. For the Maui housing, one of the paths forward is he wants to encourage residents to utilize, or short-term rental owners to utilize their homes for displaced fire displaced residents, those who are affected. And that's either incentives and other programs to get the inventory into play. We encourage the general public who have short-term rentals to make their inventory available, and you can get yourself on a list or kind of work through the process by emailing mauihousing2024@fema.dhs.gov. Part of the affordable housing, one of the initiatives is he's working towards a range of tax exemptions to facilitate sales of short-term rentals to local residents. So that's either conveyance tax exemptions and other exemptions that make it a little more, that there is some incentive for people to sell short-term rentals to local residents and lower the cost of living or housing. One of the proposals is proposing a child independent tax credit, which is totaling up to $87 million. And to the point to the issue of homelessness, the housing, the governor, as you may be aware, James Toshiba, the previous homeless coordinator, just transitioned out of his role at the end of last year. And John Mizuno, a former representative for the Kalihi board or area, is now filling the role. The governor has announced in the state of state that he's going to open up 20 more kauhales, which are the housing homeless villages across the state in the coming years. I think he wants another 20 by 2025. There is another 3 that should be upcoming in the next couple of months. I believe they're in the Kaneohe region and some towards in the main town, like Middle Street, that district. But the plan is about 3 more upcoming in the near term, with 20 proposed in the coming years.
Yeah, I heard that part. So if you can take this back, or when you're done, I can give you, because putting these homeless house, whatever you want to call it, in places where the community has no means for bus transportation, no means to go and buy shopping, no medical clinics that's close by, it's kind of irresponsible. So that's why they're not there. For example, the viaduct, right? Nice place there. I've been there, traveled back and forth there. It's really nice, their community there, but they migrate elsewhere because there's no place for them to go shopping, to buy groceries. The bus line, it becomes a problem. And so these places where we're going to put these communities, we need to relook at it and not just put it out of sight, out of mind. We need to put it so that if we are serious, that we want to integrate them back into society and part of the community, then we need to ensure that we have a better way to do that. And that's why I think that we're talking about at this neighborhood board, to come up with something so that we can present it to our city council, up there. But since you're mentioning it, it's something that should be looked at statewide. And if we can do it here in our community and it can replicate, other communities on the other islands, it's a win-win for the entire state.
Thank you for your insight. I'll pass it along to Mizuno and the governor's office.
Would he be available to
come to us?
Either meet with us or send someone to meet with us when we have our action committee meetings?
Are you speaking about John or
Somebody
Homeless
in his
Coordinator? Yeah, I believe, my understanding is as he got transitioned to the role, he will be making the rounds through the neighborhood boards at various communities. I worked with John for years while I was at the Capitol, and he is very engaged in the community and on this social services issue.
Great.
February 8th. Yeah.
Right here.
February 8th here.
Be great to have representation. Sam Mokel will be here as well.
Okay, I can try. I'm gonna bring that to you. I'm gonna see if that works for with his scheduling. But I know he is. The plan is for the governor's John Mizuno to start doing the rounds through the community meetings. I'm just, oh, sorry. And then moving on just a little bit, like I mentioned, the state of state full text is available in the chat link, and I encourage you all to read it. It is very thorough. There are a lot of initiatives that I'm not touching upon, but one of them that I also wanted to highlight that the government announced was following the negotiations with the Hawaii State Teachers Association last year, there was a reduction in the teacher shortage by 50%. So that was something of positive highlight that he was able to announce in the state of state. One of the more, this is more, it's the news more often, but in his original, as coming to office, he did propose what he called at the time the green fee, which was a fee on tourists and visitors to the state of Hawaii to be utilized for supporting the state in environment or development and such. I think that fee now has been simplified to $25 and will be, in essence, I believe, going to be applied towards like at the hotels and short-term rental at that level versus before, I believe it was going to be at the level, so the airline side. But that usually gets a lot of publicity, and the $25 climate support or local development fee is what's going to be put on towards visitors.
We have Itaika Olds who raised his hand online, and then Member Davis. Itaika Olds, did you have a comment since you had your hand raised earlier?
I just want to give the opportunity for Member Davis to speak first.
Member Davis?
Okay, thank you. I'll try and do it quickly. Just a comment on you said 50% reduction in the teacher shortage across the state.
That was
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have by any chance know if those positions were filled by certified teachers or if they're emergency hires?
I would not be able to answer that, but I can.
Just curious about it because the certification rate of teachers is really the important part in terms of driving education forward. So putting bodies in classrooms, while it may bring down the number in terms of teacher shortages, it's not necessarily addressing the problem. So just kind of curious about where the actual percentages are in terms of those certification levels.
I'll take that. I can try to check with our counterparts at the Department of Education and see if it is available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Davis. Itaika Olds?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Appreciate the work you do. I just had two questions. The first one is in regards to the governor's plan to put the villages. I forget the numbers that you put out. Question one was, are there already planned locations outside of the locations that you had mentioned in your brief that are available to be able to see over the next coming years? And the follow-up question to that is, are these going to be more long-term housing options, or are they going to be something more akin to what we saw from Honu, which were temporary placement emergency shelters that would eventually jump up and move around? And then the next question is in regards to teachers. It's fantastic that we're getting more teachers into the classrooms. I definitely support Emma Davis's question in regards to the quality of teacher we're putting into the classroom, as I do work for the Department of Education. Is there any other way that the governor was planning to incentivize keeping these teachers? Because it's not just the recruitment. Within 5 years, we tend to lose about 50% of our teachers. Just curious if that was part of the governor's plan when he negotiated that contract with HSTA, whether or not there was a more longitudinal plan to retain these teachers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I can speak a little bit to the Kalahali's. I wouldn't be able to address what the proposed locations are, but I think the announcement was another 20 over the coming years. I think there is about a handful up and running right now. As I mentioned, another 3 in the coming months. The legislature has appropriated $33 million for the upcoming year to develop and build out the Kalahali systems. So I think there is something more robust and substantive now and going forward. And one of the concepts for the Kalahali's was a proof of life or proof of concept. Initially, they created one at one point, then they did 2 and 3 into various communities, and to kind of get the adoption rate for individuals and the public to see that it is a viable option towards addressing the homeless situation and support providing housing for those individuals. One of the highlights that the governor did speak to, and they did at the Capitol, is there is a cow holiday, a medical cow holiday, directly on the lawn in front of the state Capitol, right in front of the DOE building, right in the middle of everywhere. And I drive past that every day.
But it's
When I
gone
live-
now. It's gone now.
It's still there. Or I apologize. If it's been removed, I don't believe it's.
The one right across Queens Hospital?
Yeah.
It was there. I don't think it's there anymore. It's gone.
Okay.
It's a temporary. Now, when they put that in there, it was a really great thing because those people that needed services got the services and then they were there. So I think it's a good proof of concept. And I think that was the intent. But now the concern that we would have, because if there is no plan for the transition to get them to another location, they're back in the street. And where they're gonna go? They may come whatever community. That becomes a challenge. So are we fixing the problem? The answer, probably not.
Can we find out what happened to those individuals?
I can put in an inquiry for something. And then the other question was the DOE longitudinal and kind of like housing. I can't speak to I guess the contracts and that with the teacher HSTA, but part of the governor's plan is not just teachers, but any local resident to have affordable housing and cost of living to make it more affordable for us to live here. And obviously teachers, just like the rest of government employees and others in the middle class, are looking for options to live and continue to stay in Hawaii so that there is no transition out. As you may be aware, a lot of our teachers are transplants in the mainland. They come and work in some of our harder to serve communities on the west side or neighbor islands, and they transition out. It's already difficult in the first place, but as you're a transplant, it's harder. So now we're trying to build a pipeline for local residents or local talent, and for those who do come in to stay, hopefully through affordability, making it affordable for all of us through rental subsidies or tax incentives, and just making it so easy that the cost of living is lower. And housing, there is a permanent solution for us to stay.
Thank you. Member Davis, and then we have to move on since we're way past 8 o'clock.
No, I was just, I'm a former teacher as well, made it 6 years, so didn't make it super far past the 5, but I think again, looking at incentives that aren't necessarily just increasing pay is something that I definitely encourage looking at. I say it to a lot of people, but before I would have even put a pay increase at the top of my list, it would have been just more adults in the classroom. There's just not enough hands doing the work that needs to be done to educate the population here. And I'm happy to provide anything or have conversations about that, but I definitely think that education, we talk about it a lot, but there's not always a lot of action or funding going towards it. And I, again, really encourage and would like to see, again, more longitudinal plans in terms of the educational plan for the state.
Thank you very much, and just again, Ashton and Josh, and I'll be here as well.
Nice to be
So
here.
you'll be attending here?
On a monthly basis.
Yeah, we'll be here. We're the permanent government representatives going forward to this board. We'll be here maybe 1 or 2 more in person, and we'll probably transition to.
Well, you're welcome to come to our community action committee.
In person's better. Just so how we all feel.
And then you said that's is that the Tuesday before this?
No, Thursday.
The second
It's the
Thursday.
second Thursday of the month.
We're trying to make it repetitive.
The action.
For the action. Fourth Tuesday for board meeting, second Thursday for action committee.
6 o'clock at this location.
The reason for that is that the action committee, we come up with something, gives us time to do research, get some information so that.
Also time to get it on.
Get it.
Okay,
Actually, with that too, we've conveyed our information to Spencer and Kathleen. If you want to transmit it out to the team or to the board, feel free to email us directly. And I think obviously there's to be a lot of information or inquiries or questions kind of right. So I was taking some notes, but if we're not, it doesn't just track quickly in our heads. But I try to review the reporting when time comes or the minutes, so we kind of stay abreast of it. But I might not be able to work on it till the draft minutes come out 1 week prior. But if you guys have any inquiries that you want to send us directly, and we encourage us so that we are able to follow on your issues and concerns and be able to best report back at the coming meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
Welcome.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, Congressman Ed Case's representative, if there's anyone online. Agents report. We're now at the 8:15 mark, HCDA.
Chair, members, and community, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Aloha. I'm Francine Murray from the Hawaii Community Development Authority. I had a presentation, but because of time, I'm going to try to make this quick. I want to thank Speaker Saiki for making the announcement about the Kakaku Makai rules. We have to thank him, and we have a big mahalo to the neighborhood board and members of the community for all of your testimony that you submitted. It helped to move the Makai rules quickly through the process. We just received a copy signed by the governor late this afternoon. So big mahalo for your support on that. And then on February 7th at 9 a.m., we're going to have a public hearing, decision-making hearing on the Mauka area rules for Kaka'ako. Again, that's February 7th at 9 a.m. And we have heard all of you at the neighborhood board. We read your reso, and they have taken hotels out of the draft, the current draft. So we wanted to let you know that I had a presentation, but I'm trying to make it quick. So basically the updates streamline permitting, and they offer incentives to developers who will create public benefits like plazas and open spaces for the community to use. If they create things like that, we give them an allowance where they have a greater FAR and they could build more units. Instead of doing the whole presentation, I'll take questions now if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Francine Murray. Questions from the board?
We can submit our reso. Oh, we've already submitted our reso to them. The Washington.
Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
received it.
Further questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Murray. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Hart, if you are online. Mr. Johnny.
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
Nice.
You had to kick some butt, huh?
Yeah, I should be the other guy. Okay. I'm gonna try to share a screen. I'll be quick. Just give me the look or if you want me to, shorten my presentation. Hi everyone, my name is Johnny Reed. I'm with HART's Public Involvement Team, and the Construction Engineering Inspection Team for the project. I'm here to provide an update on behalf of HART. HART is a city agency constructing the rail project, the Honolulu Rail Transit Project. City DTS is a city agency that's tasked with day-to-day maintenance, operations, and that sort of thing. So my update is just for the construction aspects of the project. For those that are interested in connecting with the project more, I put some information in chat. We have a project website. It's honolulutransit.org. We have a weekly e-blast that goes out. That is what you should see on screen now. I'll go through that pretty quickly. It goes out every Monday. It's a quick little snapshot of what we have going on with the project as a way to keep the public informed about our happenings. So going through quickly what you see on screen, we have a business and community meeting for HART's City Center Utility Relocation Projects. This meeting is on Thursday, January 25th, 1 p.m. It's virtual via WebEx. It's an opportunity to learn about our city center utility work in Kalihi, Iwilei, downtown, Chinatown, and Kaka'ako. This is available for anyone that can, is free to join. There's a link on our website. Once you click on that, once we have our moderator on the meeting, you join in and participate. Next section is a spotlight for our board of directors meeting. HART board of directors meetings are held on Olelo, or they're broadcast on Olelo. You can view recorded copies of that meeting on HART's website, on our YouTube page, or if you are on our direct link, this is just a playback for those that want to watch the meeting at their convenience. And the next section is a traffic update section. So HART and its city center utility downtown contractor, Frank V. Coluccio, we want to inform motorists of ongoing and intermittent lane closures on Haleakawili Street. So there's intermittent daytime closures between 8:30 and 6 p.m. of the left turn from Nimitz Highway in Ala Moana onto Haleakawili Street. That is right in the little armpit of where we got our contractors working at. So when that closure is closed, again, the left turn onto Haleakawili Street, motorists will be detoured to South Street, up to Queen Street, down Richards, and then they'll be able to make the left turn from Richard Street. And for those of you that know the area, you can also use Alakea Street to just go on from Alakea to Queen and down Richards as an alternative. Last section in our weekly e-blast is a weekly shopping down on the line spotlight. This is an effort for HART to promote businesses freely that are on the rail alignment. This week's spotlight is Sun Noodle. So 1981, Hidehito Uki moved to Hawaii from Japan and established Sun Noodle in downtown, actually in Dillingham. Just as it was then, it's still today. Every ingredient is carefully selected by Hidehito himself and hand-packed to ensure the quality is never sacrificed. So again, this is a spotlight for our businesses. It's free to advertise. It's on our website. We do promotions on this to make sure people know where they can shop and dine and get their cars repaired and whatnot on the rail alignment. So that's all I have. Pending your questions, this concludes my report.
Is it possible on the, when you do this here, I know you're doing the weekly blast,
Yes.
but once in a while, when you got these big major traffic challenges as you get closer to it, you may be coordinating with the local radio station, television, to kind of give the public a heads up of what's going on. Because, you know, you can get on a weekly blast, but not everybody would do that.
Gotcha.
On basis. But people watch the news, I do, and listen to the radio, particularly during the peak period. That way it can avoid the traffic.
That's a good suggestion. We use HNO info from time to time with some of our more kind of impactful closures. We've done news releases that get picked up by the news media. And to your point, we can certainly start broadcasting news more to get the media to pick up on verbatim what we're putting here to amplify it further out.
Kind of like a public announcement, heads up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Stop sharing.
Honolulu Board of Water Supply.
Have you seen Ryan?
Yes, I'm on.
Anyone from Board of Water Supply online? Okay. Looks like we're almost done. You have our announcements in our agenda, talking about our social medias, permit reviews. The next regular meeting, which is Tuesday, February 27th. Our meetings are every fourth Tuesday of the month. Not on here, but our next action committee meeting is on the 8th. So once we get that set up, you will be similar to regular board meetings. You will be getting the agenda a week prior. And you can watch us on below. And that is it. This meeting for the Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board 11 is adjourned.